Hello, everyone. It's me, Billy Younger again. I got another unit conversion problem for you here. This one I'm calling How Big is a Mile, just to give you some typical conversions between miles and meters and feet and stuff like that. These are things I think just about every educated person should probably know just off the top of their head. Maybe not some of them going from the British units, which is feet and inches and stuff like that. Maybe not going from those British units to the SI, which is things like the centimeters and the meters, but you should at least use them while you're in this course and know them well enough to use them in the course. So let's share my screen so you can see what the question I'm trying to solve is. And here's a question right here. How far is a mile in feet? How far is a mile in yards? I think you guys probably know the relevant conversion between yards and feet. How far is a mile in inches? Now that's a weird one. You probably definitely don't know that. How far is a mile in centimeters? Certainly don't know that. How far is a mile in meters? Probably don't know that either. But you probably have an idea. This next one is how far is a mile in kilometers. So this whole thing's about how far is a mile, and let's do some simple conversions to get them. And then this can be used over and over again because inevitably stuff will be given to you in everyday units that we're used to here in America. Well, here, and I think Liberia is the only two countries still using the British system. But that's the way they come at you a lot of times. And then we have to use the System International, the SI system, when we're solving physics problems. This is, again, a good problem for conceptual physics, algebra-based physics, which is called college physics, and calculus-based physics, which is called university physics. So let's stop sharing that screen. And let's start sharing another screen, which is my iPad, so that you guys can see what I'm writing. Okay, so what we know is that 1 mile is equal to, obviously, 1.00, and I can put a bar over that. And that bar, remember, if you remember from grade school, just means that zero goes on forever. So 1 mile, if we're defining it to be a mile, has to be exactly 1 mile and has to be zero, for instance, over decimal places. But I do know, for instance, how far it is in feet. So we can convert that to feet. It happens to be, again, just to keep us from making careless fractional mistakes, because not everybody's that savvy with fractions. I put a 1 under it, so remember that that's the numerator. I know that 1 mile is equal to 5,280 feet. Therefore, when I carry out this multiplication, I'm going to multiply 1 times 5,280. I can see that the mile cancels out with the mile, and the only unit left is the foot. So we get 5,280 feet. This is an exact figure, so of course, however many sig figs I put in, that's how many I get out. Now, the other thing is, how far is a mile in yards? So 1 mile, 1.00 miles, we already found out, was equal to 5,280 feet. Again, I'll put that over 1. And this time I'll make use of the fact that we know 1 yard is 3 feet. So I'm going to say 3 feet. And remember, that's an exact conversion, so we're not limiting our sig figs. 1 yard is 3 feet. So on top, I'm going to put 1 yard. And of course, I multiply numerator times numerator, and that'll give me the new numerator. I'll multiply denominator times denominator, that'll give me the new denominator. Of course, 5,280 times 1 is just 5,280, and then 1 times 3 is just 3, so I end up dividing 5,280 by 3, and I get an ultimate unit of yards. So double checking, I've already done this calculation several times, but I'm going to still check it just to make sure I'm not giving you guys anything errant. So 5,280, ooh, glad I looked at that. Had an extra digit in there, divided by 3 is equal to 1,760. Whoa, not that. 1,760 yards is 1 mile. So that's another useful conversion. Obviously, we can use that if someone gives us something in the book, say, or in your homework system in yards. You now remember that a yard is, of course, 3 feet. Remember, a meter is pretty close to a yard. A meter is about 39 inches and some change, whereas a yard's obviously 36 inches. The next part of the question, of course, was how many inches are there in a mile? In other words, in 1 mile, or what is a mile in inches was the real question. So again, we'll start with 1 mile. But I want to go ahead and realize that we already said that was the same thing as 5,280 feet. So I'll put that over 1, and then I'll make use of the fact that 1 foot, again, writing a fraction such that the units I have disappear and the units I want remain. I'm going to have to put the foot in the bottom, and there's 1 of those for every 12 inches. So I'll put the inches in the top. You can immediately see that the foot cancels out with the foot, and we get 5,280 times 12 gives me 63,360 inches. So that's how many inches are in a mile. And notice I didn't really say any sig figs. Well, 12 inches is exactly 1 foot, so that's 100% exact. 5,280 feet is exactly 1 mile. And we were specifying exactly 1 mile to begin with, so I could write this to an infinite number of decimal places. I could literally put 0.0000 going on forever, and that would be perfectly fine. So that's what a mile is in inches. We also asked, of course, for how far is a mile in centimeters, and how far is a mile in meters, and how far is a mile in kilometers. So let's get cracking on that. So next step is how far is a mile in centimeters. Again, 1.00 miles is equal to, and this time I'm going to again start with one I already had. I'm going to start with the inch figure because there's a nice conversion between inches and centimeters. 63,360. Again, I could put 0 with a bar over it because it's that exactly known. I'm going to put it in over 1 again just to keep from making any careless mistakes with our fractions. I want to convert from inches to centimeters. So we've got to choose a 1 such that the unit we have, the inches, cancels out. That means I need an inch in the bottom because of multiplication that allows us. And that means I need a centimeter on the top. And I know that 1 inch is actually exactly 2.54 centimeters. Again, this is exactly true and has been since around 1959. So now I just take this number and multiply by 2.54. And we see that 1 mile is in fact 160,934.4 centimeters. And in actuality, that's to any number of sig figs we want. The rest of the sig figs, of course, would be 0 beyond that 4 after the decimal place. So again, that's an exact figure for the number of centimeters in a mile. Now we want to know, of course, how many meters and then ultimately kilometers. So again, I'm going to start with 1.00 mile is equal to, in this case, and we'll start with the figure we just did, 160,934.4 centimeters. And we'll put that over 1 just to keep from making any careless algebra/arithmetic mistakes with our fraction. And now I'm going to convert from centimeters to meters. Obviously, I want to get rid of the centimeters, so I'm going to put that in the bottom. I happen to know there's 100 centimeters in 1 meter, so I'll put the meter on the top. And though I forgot to write it before, we definitely had a cancellation of inches here. Well, now we're going to have a cancellation of centimeters here. And we can see that the ultimate answer is just going to be this number, 160,934.40000, whatever, divided by 100. which obviously you probably wouldn't even take the time to do your unit conversion this way, because you know that to switch from centimeters to meters, you just move the decimal 2 places to the left. But if you got rusty or in the stress of the test, it might help you. So this is 1,609.344 meters. And again, this is exactly a result. In fact, after that 4, you could write any number of zeros after it and it'd still be right. So that's how many meters 1 mile makes, 1,609.344. That'll come in handy too when we start converting, say, miles per hour to kilometers per hour to ultimately meters per second. And finally, the last bit is how far is a mile in kilometers. So switching back to blue, I've got 1.00 miles. It's actually 1, so that's why I haven't been putting an S on it. This is 1,609.344, 0 with a bar after it, meters. Again, put it over 1 times, of course, we wouldn't necessarily go through all this trouble to convert this unit because we know kilometer is 1,000 meters, so we just move the decimal 3 places to the left. But if you're in a pickle, you're a little nervous about during a test or something like that, it'd probably be best to just go ahead and write it out this way. I'm going to make sure the meter cancels out, and I know that there's 1,000 meters in 1 kilometer. So I'll put the meter in the bottom. We can immediately see that the meter cancels out. And that's going to give us 1.609344, 0 dot dot dot, and that's kilometers. So that is various ways to express a mile. A mile is 5,280 feet. It's 1,760 yards. It's 63,360 inches. It's 160,934.4 centimeters. It's 1,609.344 meters. And finally, it's 1.609344 kilometers. So just keep these techniques in mind when you go to convert units, and everything will work out. There are, of course, formulas or units that don't work this way. Some examples are, for instance, the decibel. You can't convert decibels by multiplying one number in a fraction form times the answer you have. Also, if you try to convert, for instance, Celsius to Fahrenheit or Celsius to Kelvin or Fahrenheit to Rankine, multiplicative doesn't work. So just be careful. There are units that exist that don't work that way. I hope this helps. Have a good day.